And let's look at another new tool, this time introduced by Mozilla AI, specifically to evaluate the quality of machine translation. So, Alex Harish, you are making important innovation, also open source for the localization community to become more AI community, more data driven, and showing that machine translation is good or bad based on data. Very exciting development, and take it from here.
Cool. Thanks for having us. Excited to be here. And today we'll be talking a little bit about Lumigator, which is our open source evaluation tool. At the end, I'll share some other projects, but the primary focus will be on Lumigator and talking through how to run evals and some specifics around that space. So I will um, just share my screen in a minute and then give a brief presentation and then hand it over to Hareesh to do a bit of a demo, and we'll go from there. 1 second.
Would like to know more about the mission of Mozilla AI and what is Mozilla AI. Most people don't know.
Yeah, that's a great lead in because that is exactly my first couple slides. Um, 1 second. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So Mozilla AI we're kind of a separate entity from the Mozilla Foundation and Mozilla itself. So if you're unfamiliar, Mozilla's primary product is Firefox and then Thunderbird. Our mission is to make AI trustworthy, accessible, and open source. We're focusing on building products and projects that are open source oriented. Mozilla has a pretty strong legacy around building open source tools, and we're excited to kind of contribute to that space when it comes to AI also. Um, Lumigator is one of our early products and projects that's open source. It's a platform that guides us through the process of selecting the right language model for specific needs. So this tool is a little bit more technical. I would say if you're familiar with Python and working with Python, definitely a bit more suited for that type of users, but works with AI and LLMs. It's not like pure research, but it's a good tool and it's very extensible and customizable to your needs. Um, yeah, and the whole point of Lumigator, and you could see the project there, is that it's to make model evaluation easier. And one kind of unique differentiator we have is we're infrastructure agnostic. So you're able to run everything locally. That includes we have support for local models too. It could be ran in a cluster or in the cloud. Um, and then we have a lot of integrations with existing tools and tool chains that allow for easy interoperability. And then you have also a lot of different options when it comes to serving this tool. So there's an API, there's a Python SDK, there's also kind of a front end for those who don't necessarily want to dive deep into the API or SDK. And because it is open source, it's very extensible and easily customizable to fit your needs. So you're able to kind of some of the first use cases we're supporting are around like eval for summarization and translation. Um, so there's options to kind of connect to your cloud provided APIs like anything from OpenAI, Claude, etc. It could be self or locally hosted LLMs via like Ollama, Llama or other sort of like locally loading tools, and any model supported by Hugging Face model hubs. And the current metrics we're supporting are the BLEU, METEOR, COMET, and then we also have a LLM-as-a-judge functionality that we'll be showing in a little bit. This is the web UI. It's fairly straightforward where you kind of can have data sets and experiments, and you could run your experiments, and it could be run locally or through the cloud. And this is the Python SDK, and Hareesh will go a little bit more deeply into both of these. And this is the fun part. So I'm gonna stop sharing and hand it off to Hareesh, and he will kind of walk through the actual tool itself.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. I'm going to share my screen. So I hope you can see my screen now.
Yes, all good.
Yes. Okay, great. Thanks. So yeah, I'm Hareesh. I'm a machine learning engineer here at Mozilla AI. And yeah, I'm happy to present to you this tool, Lumigator, that we have been building. And this is how the front end, the UI looks like. And this is a way for people who are like less familiar with like Python or like with coding to be able to like interact with Lumigator. And the way you would begin the setup would be by going to like settings. And then if you would like to use models from different API providers, like for example, Mistral or like OpenAI, you would like insert your keys here. And this would be like the first point of contact with Lumigator. And then the idea would be like to upload a data set and then run an experiment. So let us look at how this is done concretely. So in this case, since we are dealing with translation, I have a very simple translation data set going from English to Spanish. And once you upload the data set, you have the UI to be able to like interact with it. You can view the data set. In this case, it is just a toy data set consisting of like examples, which is like the source sentence and the target sentence in the Spanish language, which is the ground truth. And then with the experiment, we would be able to like create a column which is called predictions, where you would have like different models and then compare the predictions of the different models across different metrics. So then once you go to the experiments tab, you would begin your uh, like process by creating an experiment. In this case, let's say localization conference, and then like describe the experiment, which is just something for your reference. And you can have it as anything which is meaningful to you, which can be like later modified as well. And then the dataset, which from the list of datasets, it shows the one that you uploaded the most recently, and then you can get started with that. And what you have as next is the maximum samples. Essentially, if you have a large dataset, but then do not want to like run the entire eval in one shot, like maybe you can just start with testing out like a few set of models. Say I want to just run it on like 4 samples. Essentially, this data set is small. It has only 5, but I can specify I want to run it on the top, the first 5 or 4 samples. And as Alex mentioned, we have use cases which are like summarization and translation that are supported. And when I select translation, it prompts asks me for what is the source and target language. And in this case, my source language is English and my target language is Spanish for this data set. And I would basically like the LLM to generate the predictions in Spanish. So then you come to this particular screen, which essentially has like a set of like pre-populated models you can like use for the translation use case, but you also have the option to like add new models. So if we were to work with these set of models, say if I want to use a multilingual many-to-many model from Facebook M2M 100, so this is the model that I would select. It is as easy as like selecting that model, and then I say like run, and this would start the runs for those models. And so the runs essentially happen like in your like local environment if you are testing this locally, but at the same time, like Alex mentioned, this can be like hosted on like a Kubernetes remote server, and you can like have the compute running over there, but still have this like UI or control panel on your local, so that it is easy for playing around with the UI. And as you can see, the experiments are running, and here there is like the options to view the logs. So basically, this allows you to see like what is the state of the experiments at the moment it is running. But while it is running, I think I can also show you like an additional feature, which is like you can add a new model to the current experiment. So imagine like I would still like to run another version of GPT 4.0 mini, but this time I would like to configure it. Say that I would like to make a specific prompt. Let's say the prompt is something like, you are an expert translator. Please translate the sentence from English to Spanish with a formal tone. So basically, as we saw in the previous two talks, that the prompt engineering part is like extremely important. So this text box gives you the opportunity to play around with the prompts. And then, of course, you can modify the temperature and any other of the like model parameters that I mentioned here. So if I run this one as well, you can see that it gets added to the list of runs that are already present in the UI. And since this run is taking a bit longer, what I can do is like I can go back and show you like a run that has been successfully completed and what the completion looks like. So this is the run that has been completed. And you can see that there are like 4 models that ran, and all of them have been like successfully completed. One of the model, for example, had a different prompt. And then if I view the results view has essentially like this table, which has like overall metrics across different models. So at the moment, this is like 3 metrics for translation: METEOR, BLEU, and COMET. And if you are like interested in looking at the individual example by example and how the translation looks for those cases, and that is also possible for each individual model or each individual run. And then you can look at the very fine-grained metrics as well. So if I go back, yeah, so this is still running. Oh yeah, okay, this is finally completed. So we can do the same thing for the completed run as well. So that's the general idea, and this is how you would interact with the UI. But as Alex mentioned, we also do have a way, if you want to have like more control to do this like via a Python SDK. And this is just a demo notebook, which is like made available in the GitHub repository that I linked in the chat earlier. And I can like quickly walk you through this like demo notebook, and the steps essentially are the same, but it is just doing this from a code interface. So here we're just checking like if the model which is hosted locally is like active on the platform. And I think like Maria mentioned about like the efforts of WMT, which has been actually great in terms of like collecting these data sets and curating them. And here I'm using this WMT 24++, which is from, I think from February. And the idea is to have these data sets because the models that I'm going to test were released much earlier than the dataset release. So hopefully it is not in the training data for these models, and hence we can have like a more fair evaluation. And the dataset has like multiple language pairs, and here I'm interested in like the English to German language pair, and I am going to show. So this is how the dataset looks like, a few examples of like what the source sentence and the target sentence is, and then we would like to predict translation, which looks somewhat similar to this. And the process is similar, as I mentioned, like the first step would be to like upload the data set, and then next to create an experiment and specify like the definition of the task to be translation, and the source and language and the target language to be English and German, which I have like configured earlier, and then give a name to the experiment and so on. And the next part is, I think, the most important here, which is kind of like trying to configure your work, the model run. And in some cases, you might want to have like a custom prompt. And if you don't provide one, Lumigator by default assigns a prompt detecting like what task you have selected, like the translation, and what language pairs is configured. And you can also do like a batch inference by specifying like a batch size. And there is like these metrics, which are like specific for translation. And from the previous talks, we also got introduced to LLM-as-a-judge. And the Lumigator offers this interface to have like LLM-as-a-judge metrics. And specifically, we are using this geval, which is from this 2023 paper. And the idea is to use like LLM as a judge with a GPT-4 which has like reportedly like good human alignment. And with the LLM as a judge, so I would run this. And so with LLM as a judge, the options are that you can specify like individual criteria as to what the judge should evaluate. So these are like two criteria for translation, like consistency and fluency of the output. And in this case, the criteria is like described much in detail, and what would be the steps taken by GPT to evaluate the like assigned criteria. And this is done both for consistency and for fluency. And this is like provided to you, but there is also an option to like override this file, which allows you to modify your instructions or like criteria, or add even a new criteria. And
let's leave a couple of minutes for questions, gentlemen.
yeah, sure. So I'll just finish it with like once the evaluation is done, like once the like results are available, you will see the same thing on the experiment UI, because these are like connected, and the information can be like viewed here as well as from the notebook, which looks something like this. So at this point, I'll stop, and then we can take some questions.
Thank you very much for the demonstration. It's been very technical and aimed at developers. So for those of us who want to evaluate machine translation professionally, as you can see, there are many options on the market. Human evaluations with labeling in Label Studio, automated evaluations with Lumigator. It's possible to download all these tools and deploy them yourself. Or let me plug in CustomMT. You can work with CustomMT to deliver these evaluations with computational or human metrics. Let's proceed to the questions. My first question would be, could you tell us a little bit why Mozilla is developing this, and what is Mozilla AI, right? We didn't cover this, maybe in a couple of sentences.
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, like eval is a core part of like the workflow for Gen AI, and I think a bit underserved and not necessarily strong like open source solutions. And that was kind of like the fundamental thesis around Lumigator is there needs to be more open source oriented solutions for evaluation across the board, and also solutions that had like multiple different options when it came to deployment. So it's like self-serve, running locally, can easily be clustered. That's kind of our logic. I mean, and ultimately, like at Mozilla AI, we're really about building tools and projects supporting the open source ecosystem around generative AI.
Thank you. Olga, why don't you take over the questions? We have this nice dynamic now. I ask some question out of turn, breaking the order.
Completely breaking the flow, yes.
And you put us back on track.
Fantastic. Yeah, I see a question from Sylvia. And actually, I would be probably asking the same question. Is your sample a sentence? If I'm not mistaken, what we saw in the tool so far has been on a sentence or segment level. Can it be a document? Can it be document level sampling?
Yes, for sure. Like, so the data set that you upload can contain like sentences, or even it can contain like whole paragraphs. So we expect the data to be like in a certain format, but the size of the text is not like limited by us.
Great, thank you. And another follow-up question about ground truth. There could be multiple translations, right? And if you evaluate with BLEU, METEOR, sometimes you have multiple references. So how do you select the ground truth if you have several good translations for the same translation?
Yeah,
several good references.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And with certain metrics like BLEU or METEOR, it is possible to like have like multiple ground truths. At the moment, like we support like only one ground truth column, and the predictions are like compared to this. But I think this could be like a future work for us to like incorporate like multiple ground truths.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Konstantin, do we have time for another question?
One more, maybe.
We were on schedule. Okay, here's a question.
Schedule. It never happens to me. I don't know.
Yeah, perfectly on schedule. Truly, truly impressed.
That's weird for me, right? That never happens.
Yeah, no, that's completely out of character. Truly impressed. Okay, here's a question with 3 votes. Do you have flexibility in how to set up the LLM evaluator, such as give it access to tools to do some external research, access databases, and so forth.
So yeah, I can take this. Yeah, so at the moment, like this is just making like a call to the LLM API provider, or like a local LLM that is like hosted by you. But maybe Alex can add on the like agentic part.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're actually working on kind of another project that builds on some of the work we did here that focuses on building more like agentic workflows. And a core part of that will be like interfacing with like Lumigator and the eval tools we already have. Like it sounds like what you're asking is more kind of like access to MCP servers and other tools that could really enhance this process. With the current Lumigator implementation, no, not yet, but kind of this future, this tool we're building is we aim to address this exact issue.